What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative, here again on another wonderful Friday morning to share about all of the things that I've been reading recently, what I finished, what I'm still working on, what I plan to get into next. Let me just scooch my little stack over here. And the first book in this stack that I want to tell you guys about is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, the first book in Mistborn Era 1. And if this is any indication of how this particular trilogy is going to go, it will definitely be a hit for me. Where this one shines for me is character development, character growth. Even though I didn't start out liking all of the characters, over the course of the story, I did. And I'm not quite sure if maybe that was Sanderson's intent, that perhaps we don't like them in the current state that we meet them in, but as they get caught up in Kelsier's heist and the ultimate goal of what it was that he was doing here and how they changed and adapted and grew from that, the gist of the Final Empire is it opens up, the Lord Ruler has reigned for over 1,000 years. Ash is everywhere. There's nothing green, no flowers bloom. It is a very desolate sounding area. We learn that there are two sides. We have the nobility and then we have the ska, which are the slaves. And there's just a very distinct line between the two classes. The Lord Ruler presides over them all, and he sort of almost treats them the same. He keeps them both in check. Kelsier, who is this mysterious sort of blend of the two. He's ska, but he really gives off this air of nobility. Kelsier is a thief, and he is planning this big heist. And who is the mark? None other than the Lord Ruler, the divine god, if you will. So he brings in all his most trusted heavy hitters, other allomancers, and they get to work. While Kelsier and crew are in Luthadel planning this caper, they come across news that there is a girl who has some sort of ability that is sensed, and Kelsier ends up recruiting this girl whose name is Vin. So the majority of the story is from Vin's perspective, and I didn't really take to her at first. She's one that grew on me, and I really loved her by the end of the novel. There was so much darkness. I was not expecting it. I don't remember Sanderson being so violent with his characters and just the things that happen in his books. I don't remember it being that bad in Stormlight Archive. I mean, I know there's a point where there's a lot of battling going on, but oh my word, there are some characters here called Still Inquisitors. They have iron spikes that go through their eyes, and the spikes stick out in the front and the back. They have tattoos. They are so terrifying. I almost just felt the darkness of their presence. The same for the Lord Ruler. He had this ability where he could just affect all of the emotions of those around him and just make everyone depressed. Y'all, Sanderson just described that feeling so well that I swear I felt it myself. So as you can probably tell, I love this one just a little bit, and I'm going to do my best to work in the second book. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. There was so many unexpected things that happened. Honestly, real talk, everything that happened in the Final Empire was completely unpredictable, unexpected. I never saw it coming. Well, now there were a few things, but Sanderson totally threw me off the trail that I walked back all of those predictions. So when they did happen, the few things that did, it was still in such an unexpected way. That type of storytelling just keeps me turning those pages. I flew through that book. It wasn't even one that I had on my TBR for the month of July, but my hold came in for the audiobook from Libby, and I thought, you know what? I don't have another audiobook to listen to right now. I'm just gonna casually listen to this one. Oh no, I was casually listening, immersion reading, had that book read before I knew it. Next up from the pile here is a bedtime novella called James's Journey to Dreamland by Ronald McGilvery. This book was such a delight. I want to say this is the first children's book that I have read here on the channel. It's a very heartwarming story. The author incorporated some really good lessons for young ones in here. In fact, after I'd written my review, the author messaged me and he told me that several of the chapters in this story are stories that he told his son as bedtime stories growing up, and that just melted me all over again. But it's the story of a little boy named James. James is an ordinary boy that has an ordinary life. He lives with his mother and his dog named Gypsy. There is one problem. James can't sleep anymore. He's been to several doctors. They just don't know what's going on. They've tried everything. His mother is sick with worry. They don't know what to do. Until one night, James is lying in bed with his pup, and a magical train comes to an unexpected stop in James's closet. This begins James's incredible adventure through Dreamland with Alex the conductor and his pup Gypsy as they solve puzzles in hopes of both saving Dreamland and allowing James to sleep again. Such a great story. But while we're talking about Ronald McGilvery, I did finish his collection Tales from the Parkland. Now these two are very different. This one is a bedtime novella. You absolutely can read it at night to your child, and in fact, I'm going to get a copy of this for all of my nieces and nephews of all ages. Now this one says, stories for late at night. Do not listen. These are not for nighttime reading, not at all. But I read the novella that's in the back, Harmony. Oh my gosh, what a way to end a collection. It's about James Cross, who is now a civilian. He was former military. However, he still does teaching for the military. One morning, he's out on his usual run, and a Jeep comes to get him and is like, hey, we need you back at base. Turns out his skills at being a sniper is needed for a special emergency operation. The only information they've been given is there's a perimeter set up, and they're to work inside that perimeter, and they're literally to kill anything they see. So my next completed read here on the stack is John Gingrich's The Appetite Factory. I don't typically reach for dystopians, but this one, I'm so glad that I did. In fact, it's probably going to lead to me searching out more tales like this one, because the level of enjoyment that I got from this one, I think I might be missing out by neglecting those types of stories. The year is 2008. We're in Manhattan. We're leading up to that financial crisis. It's also about the time that social media starts to gain its foothold with the public. Our main character is Leonard Lundell. He's a crisis management director of a team at a PR company out on Madison Avenue. Crisis management, what is that? Well, that is when one of their clients, a person or a business, they have some sort of scandal, they reach out to Leonard and his team, and they brainstorm ways to use the media in order to repair the damage. Basically, he's in the reputation business, and he's really good at his job. That is one thing I loved about this book. You don't just hear that's what Leonard's job is. The author takes us to work with Leonard. I found it fascinating. So as you can imagine, having that type of job, you know a lot about your clients. You've got a lot of secrets you're probably keeping. So Leonard's really good at keeping secrets, including his own, which is eating inanimate objects. Stuff you're not supposed to eat. Pencils, paper, carpet lint. And that's my second thing that I loved about this book. I thought I was going to be grossed out by it, but you can't get grossed out when you're laughing, because as he's eating a pencil, his inner thought process, he's telling you the texture of the wood, and I'm getting hints of cedar and lavender and sunshine on the breeze from across the plain. He's a connoisseur of inanimate objects, and I lived for those moments. Absolutely. And I know you're thinking that's dangerous. And no, the author does not neglect to show the dangers of what happens when you do this. And if that's not enough, let's add one more layer of fun to the situation. Leonard gets the opportunity of a lifetime one morning when a very powerful firm next door has a situation erupt, and their PR person is out of the country, and they're archaic, and they don't use cell phones. Leonard gets called in to help with the situation. So of course, Leonard's boss wants him to attempt to steal this account from this other guy. So in the course of mitigating the damage of this situation, Leonard has to work with an employee of this other firm who discovers his secret of eating inanimate objects and uses that to blackmail him. But not for money. And despite all of the humor, there's a lot of really good information here. There's a lot of commentary on capitalism and consumerism. I found it insightful. It was intelligently written. The prose itself is worth reading this book for. I could not speed through it even though I wanted to. I just wanted to get to the next part. I had no choice but to slow down and savor the writing style because it's just that good. Since I've talked about these four over a couple of different weekly reading wrap-ups, I do have written reviews for all of them on my blog, which I'll have linked down in the description in case you're interested in more information like the book descriptions or even more of my thoughts than what I've said here. Now let's talk about some short stuff that I read. First up, we'll talk about my latest story that I read in Stephen King's Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I read the third story, which is The Nightflyer, and I loved it. Some of my favorite stories by Stephen King have featured the main character as a writer of some sort. In this story, Richard Dees is a writer for one of those magazines that you stand and read the titles of while you're waiting in line at the grocery store. One of those rags. There's no need for a reality check. Richard Dees knows the stuff he writes is garbage. He knows this. But then comes that night where he feels that he's finally stumbled on his first legitimate story about a serial killer and his unusual diet. And it was fantastic. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that because I just want you to read it for yourself. It's so good. And the first two were really good. I have a feeling this one might become my favorite collection. Now this next one, I'm actually still working currently on a story here. I started the life cycle of software objects in Ted Chiang's Exhalation collection. And I didn't get a chance to finish it before filming today because it's over 100 pages long. So it's actually more along the lines of a novella than it is a short story. As with anything else I've ever read by Ted Chiang, it's written so well, but I think this one is going to hurt me deep. I think it's gonna make me cry. I just have this feeling, and I shouldn't because it's not real. I mean, yes, it's a short story, it's fiction, and I'll try my best to explain them. I'm probably not going to do a good job. Digients are software, they're animals that you can log into Data Earth, and you create your avatar where you can actually go in and you can talk to your animal, you can train it, you can teach it to read, you can take it on play dates with other animals, but of course, as is with most phases and crazes, it dies down and people have begun suspending their animal accounts. And I don't know where it's going, but I just feel like my heart is gonna get broken. The last one here I'm still working on is Riley Sager's The Last Time I Lied. This is the Wine and Crime Book Club's pick for the month of July. That live show is tomorrow here on the Nerdy Narrative at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't read it, I always start the live show off by giving a non-spoiler summary of the book, and then I'll ask everyone in the chat to share their ratings for it so you can get an idea of what the group as a whole thought. And then we'll get into spoilers. So if you've read the book and you want to join in the discussion with the book club, you are more than welcome to. We'll talk theories, motivations, characters, atmosphere, all of those fun things. I've actually just started it, so I don't know quite what I think about the story or the author's style just yet. I am intrigued. So our main character, Emma, when she was a girl, she went to Camp Nightingale one summer. 3 girls that shared her cabin. She woke up as they were sneaking out one night. They told her she was too young to come, and they left, were never seen or heard from again. After all of these years, with those girls never being found, there's an opportunity for Emma to return to Camp Nightingale, and she's going to take it in order to try and figure out what happened to those girls so that hopefully she can lay this matter to rest. We'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I am very early on in it. I gotta get moving on it though because I have a live show tomorrow. But once I finish The Last Time I Lied, the next book that I'm going to pick up will be my next SPFBO read, which is The Lady of the Mark by Alex Hansen. This is the first book in her series that I believe is called The Men of the Mark, or it might just be Men of the Mark. If memory serves about this one, our main character is the first female to become a part of the guild called the Men of the Mark, which I believe is a guild of warriors who exists to end the civil war that is currently going on in this world. I believe the focus of the story is going to be the main character, how she deals with being the first female in this group and how they treat her. Of course, I don't imagine she's going to be received very well. And I think she kind of gets into a romantic relationship with one of the higher ups in this guild, which cannot end well. It's one of those that just sounds like it's going to be one bad decision after another. I'm kind of excited about it. I remember when I read the book description thinking, this one sounds like it's going to be character driven, have a really good politically charged plot. I can't wait to see what kind of reading experience I'm going to have with it. And that's going to take care of everything that I've read, what I've been reading, what I plan to get into next. Now y'all will have to excuse me as I have a book for a book club live show tomorrow that needs to get finished. So I'm gonna step off here and go take care of that. I hope you all have had a great week so far. I hope your Friday flies by and that you have a great weekend lined up. You all take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you on Monday.